We're back. Day 5, something like that, which I got to change the title to that. Give me a second. But day 5 of live streaming. And we're watching some AI news, doing some reactions, giving opinions, giving thoughts. Yesterday was not as long as I wanted it to be. That's okay. Like I said, I can definitely think I can definitely commit to at least 2 hours every day. 4 hours is really hard, especially when you get a lot of shit to do. Like I can't necessarily work on deep work while I'm live streaming. There's something about me seeing the camera light on that changes my mindset. So it makes it feel even more like work. Anyway, we're going to get right into it. Where crypto meets AI with Chris Dixon and David George. Do I know who those two people are? No, I don't. No, my wife does apparently.
I don't. I'm just joking.
All right.
Much better. So how will the money flow? How will copyright work? There's all sorts of interesting questions that you can kind of think of downstream. And I think those are all questions that in some ways crypto can address.
They have the leading, state-of-the-art models in Gemini across a bunch of different domains.
So what should they do? They should throw out search at 100 something billion in revenue.
Yeah, it's the best business out there, and I do not envy them.
There's like all these people talking about, P-Doom and, Terminator stuff, and then they're talking about models. They're sort of either really, really tactical or really like cosmological scale or something. But my sense is a lot of the actual interesting questions are sort of in the middle.
These guys in their middle, I swear, just quick side note. The one thing I do not like is not saying he is it, I'm just saying centrist. All right. These fucking centrist. They're kind of annoying. Not saying he's one. Lex Friedman comes to mind. Although, Lex Friedman, maybe someday you'll be watching this. Much love, dude. I'm just saying. I think being a centrist is a weak position. That's okay. Oh, what is a centrist? Somebody who considers themselves to be in the middle. It's almost as if they're equally left and equally right, with no strong convictions. Very much fence sitting. Anyway. And then this whole, the truth is in the middle. That's like the Hegelian dialectic. Maybe it's not in the middle. Maybe the truth is not in the middle sometimes. Anyway, sorry, just going on a little rant there. Let's get into it. I'm sure these are very smart guys. They have a lot more money than me. They're more successful than me, and they know a lot more about AI than I do. So I'm going to shut up and listen and learn, and you should do the same.
Chris, obviously, you spend the vast majority of your time.
And who knows what that disclaimer just said? Maybe it just said, hey, you can't do reaction videos. And if that's the case, sue me.
In crypto.
Yep.
Why don't you just start by saying, what is the state of, talk about what the state of crypto is today. Where are we at? What's most important?
Yeah, people probably know the last 4 years have been a tricky time on the kind of the regulatory policy side. And so that's really kind of set us back a little bit. But the positive side, the infrastructure has gotten much better. So, one of the big goals was to be able to send money for 1 penny in under 1 second. And that is now achievable. If you download like the Coinbase wallet, for example, you can do that. And a couple of years ago, that was like $10 or something like this. So that's great. So the sort of core blockchain infrastructure has gotten much better. For those tracking it, like stable coins have grown dramatically in usage. It's now in the trillions of dollars, higher than Visa per month.
Yeah.
So that's been really good. And that's, by the way, not correlated to kind of trading volume and things. So it's not sort of speculative use cases. It seems like real use cases. So that's been great.
Talk about some of the use cases, some of the, maybe stable coins. Double click for a second. I think you called it, WhatsApp moment for money. Like, what do you mean by that? And what are some of the big use cases?
Yeah, I mean, the way I've been sort of, at least in when we go to DC, for example, explaining blockchains and stable coins is it's essentially digital services where you remove the intermediaries. So you can instead of having to send money through, having a issuing bank and a merchant bank and Visa and a payment processor, you have a blockchain, but it's essentially acting like a service provider without intermediate, like it's very lightweight intermediaries. And so in the same sense that like WhatsApp, came along when you had to use like SMS, and you'd pay for international payments, and there were like all of these little, like, really, it wasn't really one network, it was a whole bunch of like sub networks. And you had WhatsApp and other kind of over-the-top networks, which created a single unified network. And so you can kind of think of stablecoins as you're creating a single global unified network without intermediaries that allow you to make payments, right? And that turns out, once you get the infrastructure down to 1 penny, 1 second, it turns out to be, it's been quite popular and useful. And so that's really exciting. And hopefully, for those following it, we're trying to get legislation, and that will, I think, further accelerate it, because you've got essentially, 99, think of it as it's a network effect, and you've got 90 or high percent or some percentage of the nodes on the network that right now don't feel like they can participate in the network. So like banks and other kinds of more conservative financial institutions. And once we have legislation that will unlock that, they'll join in, that will accelerate the network effect. And then the exciting thing about the stablecoin thing, right? It's like, the next thing, once you have money flowing through, well, why not loans? Why not stocks? Why not treasury bills?
They already do a lot of that. Treasury bills. Oh my God. I shot myself in the fucking foot, guys. Right in the foot 3 times over. It already exists. Treasury bills already exist on the blockchain. I've been talking about it for 4 years. It's called Hex. Hex is your treasury bill. It's a T-bill. It was made literally to be a comparable T-bill, or you could even look at it as a CD. I know they're 2 different things, but similar in some ways. There's already a crypto for it, and it's been running perfectly for 5 years.
And so it's sort of a stepping stone to a whole bunch of other things. So that's been very positive. The negative side, as I mentioned, on the regulatory side, we had this, all-out assault by the...
And the founder of Hex took the SEC to fucking school. Like, he just cleared a bunch of regulatory issues with his lawyers for crypto as a whole. And now the government explicitly names the cryptos in which it doesn't that they were wrong calling a security and other things about. You know what they are? Bitcoin, Ethereum. There was a couple others, but then the last one they included, it was Hex. It was Pulse Chain, which is the blockchain Richard Hart had created to be essentially, it was just he forked Ethereum and created a whole nother Ethereum chain, copying all the code over. So if you had bought on Ethereum like 5 years ago, you have duplicate of whatever it is you own on another blockchain, an equivalent amount. Doesn't mean the dollar amount's the same, but everything was copied over. And so Pulse Chain, PulseX, which is the decentralized exchange he had created to compete with Uniswap, and a couple other ones that was listed in there. Man, when you sell all of your crypto to chase a dream out west, and then you come back east with none of your crypto.
Last administration on the space, and that just had all of these negative effects. Essentially, we lost 4 years or something, I would say, in a lot of ways. And that not only did it mean that the projects that were invested in had to really kind of limit their product development, but it also, I think, scared off a lot of entrepreneurs from even entering the space. And so we're sort of recovering from that now. I think all things considered, given that, like, we're in a really good spot, given all the drama of the last 4 years.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, the stablecoin thing to me is one of the, one of the items that has become sort of mainstream in the crypto world now, or is starting to become mainstream. Like, for those of you who followed last week, Stripe had their big product conference, and one of the big things they talked about, they did their biggest acquisition ever. They bought a stablecoin company, and it was a big part, one of the biggest parts of what they spoke about in terms of product advancements and their focus areas. So, quite optimistic with you on that.
Yeah, they spent quite a bit of their time, and for those who don't know, like, Stripe has a mixed history with crypto. They got into it a long time ago. They co-created a project called Stellar, and then they got really kind of down on it for a long time. They just, it wasn't working. And now if you watch them on various podcasts and in their demo day, like they're very, very excited. A lot of their use cases are cross-border. They're like treasury management. So that's like, I think like, like SpaceX, like Starlink is like, uses it to move money from one country to another, things like this.
People contractors they have to pay in different countries is the simplest way to actually pay them.
But there's all these sort of secondary benefits, right? It's not just the price, it's not just the lower pricing. It's also the fact that you can now, it's fully programmable. And
Yeah.
so for example, a big problem is invoice fraud. People send, you send bank wire information and a PDF and it's wrong. But if it's all fully programmable, you can build essentially like a reputation system and fully automate the full thing and have a whitelist system and all the kind of modern bells and whistles you want to have. So that's exciting. And I'm hoping that's, as I mentioned, kind of a stepping stone to many other kind of we have obviously a lot of speculative use cases on crypto, but what we really want are non-speculative use cases, right? Things that are like real products that aren't around trading and things. And so that's been a bright spot.
Yeah. That stat of stablecoin volume from the previous year, I couldn't believe it when I read it. But to be at the same level of Visa is extraordinary. Yeah. So quite optimistic. Let's shift gears. So let's talk about Gen AI. Maybe to start, what are your initial impressions as a student of technology?
Yeah, I mean, for those of us who've been, who've been in technology for a long time, as I have, it's amazing to see. I mean, it's obviously incredible, and it's particularly AI, because AI has been, 80 years or so of development and has gone through waves and really kind of became, kind of roll your eyes. At some point, people would often roll their eyes in the 2000s and 2010s, of AI, just because it had been around so long and hadn't really lived up to its promises. I mean, people in the 50s and 60s were saying, there's a 1960s, there was an expert system, actual stock market kind of bubble, So to finally see it work is amazing. And in some ways, it's interesting with technology, right? Because in some ways it's predictable, in some ways it's unpredictable. The predictable part, if you go back and look at like Ray Kurzweil's books from like the 20 years ago, like a lot, and there were a bunch of other examples. They would have these charts where they would plot out the kind of the improved Moore's law type improvement in GPUs, and then compare it to like a human. How many nodes would you have? How many parameters in your model, and how does that compare to like I remember there's one in like the deep learning textbook, and it's like how does that compare to a bird and a human? And like I was just looking, someone was just talking about the Ray Kurzweil one. Apparently he predicted like AGI in like 2027. Like they were a lot of these predictions were fairly accurate, because you could kind of predict the kind of the improvement in GPUs and things. On the one hand, on the other hand, like I don't think many people predicted that generative AI would be the kind of leading use case over more like, I don't know, what do you call analytical, like an analyzing whatever language and financial statements, right? The fact that it would actually be a creative thing is, I think, and you'd always hear, it's going to come for the truck drivers or something, right? In fact, it's coming for like the laptop.
Came for the laptop.
The laptop
came for all of us
of like
first.
Yeah, I mean, like product managers,
email jobs,
like it's the greatest risk. I don't think many people predicted that. So that's
coming for creatives before, like robotic tasks is surprising back that long.
I mean, I think, look, there's all sorts. I mean, Martine and Sarah and Eric were just talking about it. There's all sorts of interesting AI-specific questions of like, what are the applications? Where is the value going to accrue? I'm sure you've thought a lot about this. Like, is it going to be, people talk about applications, foundation models, chips, cloud service providers. Lots of interesting questions. Probably my colleagues, you and colleagues in the other verticals are more qualified to talk about. I mean, I can pontificate, but I think they're the experts.
You're pontificating pretty good.
I think they're the experts. But what I like to sort of sometimes do is think a little orthogonally. Like, well, one thing is I always like to think about sort of second order effects of technology, right? So, and you go back and you look at, the automobile, and the first order effect was you can go from point A to point B faster, right? The second order effect was highway systems and transportation and suburbs and all these other kinds of things that happened as a consequence later on. I think of crypto as being a second order effect of social media. So you go back 20 years ago and you think about, like I was thinking about social media, I was working on it, and you would say, okay, someday, people have social media and anyone in the world will be able to have a voice and share their expertise. And that was sort of the first order effect, and that happened, of course. But the second order effect is now, like crypto as an example, like if you didn't have social media, think about it, someone would come up with Bitcoin, and
then New York Times would write
New York
about
Times would say this is stupid, and then Washington Post would say it's stupid, and then Financial Times would say it's stupid, and then it'd be over. Like, or maybe there'd be like a magazine or something. Like there'd be no way to evangelize it and create a community around it the way that in a lot of ways all the stuff, of course, happens through social media. I think, the things that have happened with politics, the Trump stuff and populism and just all the radical changes in culture and all these things that are going, I think we're just in the early innings of all the second order effects of social media, right? But that's sort of interesting. So I think one question with AI is what will be the second order effects there? Like one thing I think about, just because my interest area is like in media. So, the first order effect of generative AI, right, is you can make obviously like an illustration, you can make videos, and obviously that stuff will improve. And I think very soon, it seems like whatever, in 2 years, you'll have people making feature-length films.
Films, games.
Yeah, and that's what happens. But then, like an analogy I would use is like to photography. So when photography first started really kind of going mainstream, there was a lot of angst around it, in the artistic community, and like, artists at the time were doing.
They were complaining about cameras and stuff when they first came out, saying it takes away the authenticity.
Representational art, and they were like, well, how, what's the role of the artist in this world? And of course, what ended up happening is, at least in the high art world, they kind of moved into abstract art and away from representational art. And then of course photography proliferated. But then a really interesting new thing happened, right? Which is you had film. And so film was, is obviously requires photography, but is a new form of media that couldn't exist until you had, sort of photography get to a certain level of advancement, right? And so you could say that, in some, like the photographs were the kind of, in my vernacular, the skeuomorphic, skeuomorphic kind of application of cameras.
Yeah.
And film was the new native form of media, right? It was a form of media that couldn't exist before. So I think one interesting question to ask with AI, with generative AI, is, of course, it will make it easier to create existing forms of media, but will there be new forms of media that simply couldn't have existed before? And my guess is that there will be. I don't, I have hypotheses as to what they might be, but
every previous technology wave would suggest
that's right. It's always
becomes
been the case,
native over
right?
time, but it starts to skeuomorphic. And
and then like another question you'd ask is like, what are the business models going to be in that world, right? I mean, when content is abundant, presumably the cost of content goes down, the value goes down, but people still engage. People like to engage with other people. They like to engage with artists. There's a human factor to it. There's community formation. Presumably people will like. If there's 100 different generative AI, science fiction universes, people will probably like the universes that their friends like because there's a community aspect to it. How will the money flow? How will copyright work? There's all sorts of interesting questions that you can kind of think of downstream. And I think those are all questions that in some ways crypto can address. I think at a high level, the way I think about it is, obviously AI lets you create intelligent systems. What crypto is really about is not about intelligence; it's about coordination, right? It's about solving collective action problems and coordination problems, which is, I think of as an orthogonal set, a different set of kind of problems to solve versus intelligence. So you just take a typical problem of like, well, money is obviously is a coordination problem. How do you shift value around the world? How do you get everyone to agree on certain standards? How do you get in the internet era, like that's a collective action question, right? Of like, how do you get all these people together to do something? And like, but arguably so is, you want to build housing, like that's probably partly an intelligence problem, partly a bunch of physical real world problems, somewhat of regulatory problems, and some of them are kind of collective action coordination problems, right? So it's sort of a series of things that you need to make progress. And some of those things fall in the category for coordination, collective action, and that's where we think our kind of building networks on blockchains fits in.
Yeah, an economy for the internet. I mean, a couple data points on that. Like Sarah and Martine and Eric were talking about it, but not all the technology waves are the same, but they often rhyme, right? One commonality is just this sort of Moore's law improvement of things, right? So you talked about infrastructure on the crypto side, going from $10 to send to a penny to send. In the AI side, there's been a 99% reduction in cost over the last 2 years. It looks like that will continue to happen. At the same time, you're also seeing dramatic improvements in model quality. So I'm quite optimistic for that reason. I think if you give it a set of tasks that are slightly higher order, I think the models are currently doubling their capabilities every 7 months.
Also had
of course.
Chip.
Chip. and better, and that will help to improve the cost over time too. I think we could talk about like where value will accrue in business models and all that stuff, but clearly the chips companies are some of the best companies in the world, or like applications and the model companies that leg up into the application layer. There's going to be a tremendous amount of value, but I think it does beg the question as you go from skeuomorphic application of these technologies into native, there probably does need to be a different economy associated with them, just number of transactions, like AI to AI payments. Talk about like what you think may happen there.
So I would expect, just as the way I look at it is in past kind of mega trends, mobile, social, cloud, they all kind of reinforced and intersected with each other, and I would expect the same thing here. If we're right about crypto, and it seems like AI is obviously happening, but I would expect all of these things to intersect. I think there's sometimes a tendency, like in the crypto world at least, for people to feel like the other sectors are kind of competitive with them or something, and we're always saying that's not the case. In fact, you have to lean into it. It also has just a thing of kind of resetting the chessboard, right? Like if you just have a whole new set of services, and now we were just talking backstage about how it seems like Google might be under threat now, just from a search perspective. You should talk about that. It's interesting. But, if that's the case, you're just going to have like a whole, it's just sort of like a new game, right? And new incumbents are popping up, and there's an opportunity to create new architectures and new services around those.
Yeah, the Google thing we were talking about backstage, I was showing Chris a chart that our team put together that showed the volume of the AI native activity against Google queries, and they're just moving in opposite directions. It's not nearly the severity of the line on the Google direction. It is, just because of the scale. But you can see it happening. And where it's happening right now is knowledge retrieval. So it's like the lowest monetizing forms of Google's revenue model. So like, yes, they may be using query volume or losing query volume, but people still go there to search for insurance and vacation rentals and the most valuable.
But that's changing too because of GEO and AEO. It's just adding layers to what already is known as SEO. So you search for something or you ask a question into your LLM, like ChatGPT, it's going to, depending on what you ask, provide you with either products or maybe businesses that are close to you. New marketing frontier to tackle. So Google may be in trouble there, but maybe not. I think Google is going to remain on top for a long time just because they have so much data, they have so much compute power, and they're already embedded into so much of the internet.
Terms. But we're getting pretty close to the point where you can actually conduct business activity on the internet without having to go through Google. And
that will be with these agents, is there?
Yeah, agents. Yeah. Agents is such a loaded term. Our team just did, our infrastructure team just did a good podcast, which you should listen to, which is like, what is an agent? But basically, it's the ability of the AI to go conduct business on your behalf. And I think we're getting pretty close to having it be able to do that in some at least lower level tests of things that you would do on the internet. But the problem that Google has is they have the classic innovator's dilemma. Like the search business model that they have is so profitable. It's one of the, I've talked about, it's one of the best business models of all time. Yeah. But it's hard to dislodge yourself. It's so good, but it's an inferior product experience. The other thing about Google, not only was all of the technology actually invented there, which is the craziest thing to think about. We back no. With like the better business, like an even better business model attached to it. But they actually have the best models right now. Like they have the leading, the state-of-the-art models in Gemini across a bunch of different domains.
So what should they do? They should throw out the search at 100-something billion in revenue?
Yeah, it's the best business out there, and I do not envy them. One of the things that we talk about a lot is like, do you back the founder-led company or do you back the company that's run by the professional manager?
Yeah.
Like it would take a very audacious move for Google to just say, I'm going to do what's needed and embrace the future.
The thing is, even then, even if they did that, even if they put in like a chat thing, the problem is the whole business predicated on not actually getting it's on getting the link and not the actual product, right? I mean, the whole thing is, and so
the promise they make to users is and the other side, right, is that we will deliver you the traffic.
Yeah.
So we actually should talk about that, because you've written about that. You and I have talked about that.
Yeah.
But the concept of like breaking the original pact of the internet, you should talk about that, and what some of the potential solutions for it are.
Yeah, I talk about it. I call it in my book, I have a chapter on it called like a new covenant, essentially. The idea is that it was never explicit, but over the last 20 years or so, sort of a covenant, quote unquote, was formed between kind of distribution, which search, and social, kind of the places you first go on the internet to discover. And then the content sites downstream from that. So you go and you search for a recipe, you search for a news article, and then you click through. And the basic kind of deal that evolved was that if the content site lets you kind of take a snippet and show something in exchange for you send me some amount of traffic, right?
Yeah.
And occasionally that was broken, like with the one-boxing. So one-boxing is when Google takes the content and just puts it at the top, like they do with Wikipedia. I was on the board of Stack Overflow, which is a popular programmer Q&A site, and that was their biggest fear in life, was that instead of people clicking through and going to the website, they would just put the answer up there, right?
This famously happened with Yelp. And then they've done it with travel, to shopping, but like to limited success, I think.
Yeah, and so but in that framework, you can think of AI like ChatGPT as sort of one-boxing the whole internet, right? It's just like it gives you the answer. You don't need to click through, right? And so in that world, how does the other millions of websites, what is their business model? It was dependent on getting that flow. And you're seeing like these things like Perplexity, and I think ChatGPT too. They sometimes put links in there and stuff, but the reality is, I think that's to be nice or something, but like in the end, you don't really need that if it's a good AI. You just get the answer, right?
Yeah.
And so presumably that'll be reflected in the click-through rates and things like that. And so the question is, do you just let all of that stuff kind of atrophy and that's it? And it's just the internet's these 10 websites, or do you have to think about a new model for those, like a new business model that doesn't involve kind of getting this flow of link traffic? And that's an interesting question that I kind of just raised. I don't really have I don't have a full answer to it, but I feel like this is the kind of thing that we should be having discussions about. And so I wrote about it and I've talked about it, hoping to trigger a discussion. It hasn't really worked. But to me, that's the kind of stuff that like are the obvious next couple of year consequence. I mean, I come into it having worked on the internet my whole career, so I think about the internet and what's going to happen to the internet. And so that to me, that's a pressing issue. And then I think it's also an issue of like that's a huge income stream, and there's a lot of jobs and small businesses. And so like, what are we thinking? Like, how will that evolve from a societal point of view? And I feel like in the AI world, like there's at least not, on Twitter at least, there's like all these people talking about, P-Doom and, Terminator stuff. And then they're talking about models. And they're sort of either really, really tactical or really like cosmological scale or something. But my sense is a lot of the actual interesting questions are sort of in the middle. They're not like Terminator coming to kill you, but more like this is clearly going to change the structure of the internet. It's going to change business models, and like how do we think through, how to respond to that, both from a business point of view, but then also like policy and other kinds of things, right?
Yeah.
Like I think the interesting questions are kind of, I would say, more middle zoom level, not cosmological, not
Yeah. I'd say you can see it initially being disrupted in websites that are knowledge based and where the model can consume the knowledge, and so it's a natural. Chegg is the best example, right? Which is basically, it was a high flying public company. It's a place where kids would go to get homework help and study guides and things like that, and then like overnight like got hit by a ton of bricks, and it's obviated the need for it.
Yeah.
But you would need someone to create that content in the first place, for the next thing. So I think that highlights maybe the go forward problem.
Yeah, I mean, that's a question. Like if you kill the business model that first created Stack Overflow, you're not going to get future Stack Overflows. And maybe that's an issue for the AI models, or maybe it isn't. Maybe you can just pay for it, or you can use, automated tools, or, or synthetic data. I'd like to believe
there's a future, though, where there's like broader internet that creates
stuff, I think
right?
We want a business model for things like music and movies, and you want humans involved, and they're going to create new genres and have new ideas. And hopefully those things will then feed into AI systems and they'll help accelerate that. But I think I believe the ultimate outcome is some kind of symbiotic relationship. And there's also separately, there's sort of a human flourishing kind of question of like, people want, fulfilling, meaningful work, and hopefully all of these new systems and tools fit into that somehow, right? But I don't know.
I think there's some. I do think there's some risk to it, and like to your point on skeuomorphic versus native, the way the most dominant business models on the internet evolved is actually toward a new native form of advertising, right? Like we're dunking on Google, for being the incumbent, but they did create a new form of advertising. Similarly, Facebook and Instagram created, the feed-based advertisement that's, very highly targeted. So my hope would be that the AI companies, once we have the native applications, also come up with some native business model that's a different form. The piece that's ad-based like looks something more like an affiliate, that is like a dirty term, but like something like that actually finds a way to compensate, the website or whatever. But it's so early.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, because you know this better than I do, but like there haven't been. I mean, if you look at the last unicorns, like how many are ad-based in the last 15 years? Like 2. Like the vast majority are charging. They're freemium. They're enterprise. So that's one question. It's just like, is ad-based even going to happen in the future?
I think it might go. I think it just goes in. Well, in the fullness of time, everything becomes an ad business, right? So that's like the joke in consumer internet.
Yeah.
But the best businesses in the world are ad-based, right? And they are the best businesses in the world because the users give the content, and to the user it's free, and then they're compensated via ads. And so, I think there's a question of how it will play out. Will it just be a simple subscription, or is there going to be something more, freemium that comes along? I would bet on the latter. Yeah. But yeah, I think these go in waves. I mean, I think that's the biggest, thing. There's not a lot of new ad-based business models because there hasn't been until now much of an opportunity for startups to encroach upon consumer time spent, which is where the advertising comes from.
People are talking about, there's a whole industry around SEO, and now there's going to be a whole industry around convincing the AI model to promote your product. When you ask it what the best detergent is, like there'll be a whole industry around, infiltrating the training data so that they promote.
For those of you close to the internet, it's like we would all welcome the like gamified SEO stuff to go away. Let's talk about like market structures, if you will. Sure. And obviously these technologies they come in waves, they reinforce one another. What about what determines winners and losers and competitive differentiation, moats, barriers to entry, all that stuff?
Yeah, I think of most of what I've done on the investment side in my career has been sort of network businesses. Crypto's all networks. Basically everything we invest in is a network. And so I always look at the world through that lens of like, I think networks are the best. They're my personal favorite types of investment. Build it. They can be very capital efficient. A relatively small amount of money. Absolutely. You can get bigger and have defensibility there. So that's kind of lens I look at it through. I don't know how much that's happening in AI. It feels like a lot of AI doesn't have network effects, but they have brand effects and technical effects. You know much better than me. So crypto, we have that. That's we have a lot of other challenges in crypto, but one thing we have is I think once it works. Like Ethereum, Solana, Uniswap, whatever. Bitcoin. Once it works, there's a very clear defensibility story. Mm-hmm. So that's the good news. AI side, I'd love to hear your thoughts because you're the expert. Like, how do you build defensibility? And it seems like like right now there's 5 to 10 companies with comparable foundation models, as an example.
Yeah, and then
trying out some AI video editing right now for the podcast. Hopefully, it does it all for me, and I don't have to do much. Or at least a lot of it. If it does a lot of it and I have to touch it up, that's fine. But it's a lot of work to fucking edit, especially when you got like an hour and a half podcast, or you got even a 40-minute podcast, an hour podcast. It's a pain. That's why I've been taking my time on editing this stuff. Oh, come on. By this stuff, I meant the live streams, clipping them.
For side one with all the traction, right? Yeah. And so, yeah, right now there's no network effect, at least as far as we can see. I agree that network effects are the strongest form of a competitive moat. Chris always jokes that there's only 2 things that give you competitive differentiation in any industry: is network effects and enterprise selling. Because there's all these discussions we always have is other things like data and distribution, and all these other
those
things.
are the two things. If you just go through and count like the biggest market cap company, it tends to be those two things are dominant. It's not the only things, but
yeah, this is the thing that we're wrestling with right now in AI, because we've now gotten to the point where there's about 1 billion monthly active users of consumer AI applications, and this has grown significantly faster than predecessor companies, Google, Facebook, TikTok. And in the case of TikTok, they actually grew through paid customer acquisition. This is so remarkable because it's effectively been all organic growth, and that's super unique in consumer. So we've gotten to this incredible scale. There's a lot of usage, there's a lot of monetization, but there is no network effect. And so how durable is that customer relationship is something that we wrestle with all the time. And I don't have a great answer for it. I think there will probably be network effects that do emerge, and they could be built around certain product features or model capabilities that create a different kind of, sort of user lock-in with the vendor, as opposed to, a user lock-in with the rest of their network, as it has been in the last social wave. But it's early. It's too early to call.
I mean, it seems like, you tell me, but it seems like the smart folks like you are shifting from thinking the value is going to be in the foundation models to value is going to be in the applications and the chips, and sort of at a barbell effect. Is that right?
Yeah, I think that it's becoming clearer to me and to us, including infrastructure group, everybody, we all sit around and talk about this stuff all the time. Clearly the chips, and then clearly the end user applications. And there is a tremendous amount of effort being exerted from a bunch of the ecosystem players to commoditize the middle of that, right? The model layer, the simple API serving. And there's different incentives for why that's the case. For the cloud companies, the ones that don't have their own models, they would like to commoditize that because they want to keep the customer power, and they want that simply to be an input and something that they can sell. The application companies obviously would like to commoditize it because they want their costs to go down. And we could go vendor by vendor, but there's different incentive structures. But right now the prevailing view is simple serving via API is likely to face a tremendous amount of pressure. Obviously there's some big swing factors like open source, and how much that continues to be pushed forward to the frontier, because that's also putting a lot of pressure on the price and cost in a good way. But we're very high conviction that at the application layer you will have tremendous value. And at the chip layer, you will have tremendous value. So beyond that, it's TBD. And the crazy thing is, the applications are all so early, right? And so, there's only 10 or 20 of them that are really kind of breaking out. But the ones that have broken out in an extremely meaningful way, much faster, as Sarah said, I think, than the predecessors. So that's exciting.
Yep.
So that's the sort of network effects piece. The selling piece on the B2B side, that's very TBD. We'll see. But I think the selling software just as before is kind of always going to be the same, and it'll be the same in this wave too.
Yep.
So on the market structure stuff, one of the things that we talk about a lot in the growth fund is how much are things winner take all versus there's sort of a distribution. And one of the frameworks that we talk about all the time is this idea of the Glengarry, Glen Ross market structure, which is Glengarry, Glen Ross, Alec Baldwin comes in and he's putting on a contest, and he walks in and he says, okay, we're gonna have a contest today. First prize, you get a Cadillac. Second prize, you get a set of steak knives. Third prize, you're fired. And so we joke that oftentimes technology markets follow that same sort of distribution of outcome, where the winner takes the vast majority, second place is playing for scraps, and third place is dead. I'm curious your take on that.
Yeah, I mean, we definitely. I mean, I believe. I mean, that generally, I think empirically is borne out. I think there's nuances, how do you decide on what the category is, for example.
Trying to get up to date, stay in the know, doing some work in the background for the podcast dropping Friday. Get ready for that. Friday, dropping podcasts, dropping bombs.
Right, and you can divide the world up in different ways, and then of course great founders will move into adjacent categories, and so it's sort of more complicated. But I mean, we try to operationalize that in our investing, which is our number one kind of rule of investing is we say the best company in every credible category, right? So like we are lighter on like not less rigorous, but more humble on the question of which categories are the best, because we've just been, I think VCs in general and us, and me in particular, I'll say, have been wrong about that, trying to predict like, will X be a thing, whatever, online dating and, grocery delivery. And I can't tell you how many debates I've heard on all these topics. And it turned out the answer was, if a bunch of entrepreneurs are working on it and they're smart, you should probably just assume that they're probably right, and it will be a category. And then the job of the investor becomes picking the best one. And and what's nice about that framework is that picking the best one is something you can actually, institutionalize and have a process around, and go meet all the competitors and have criteria and due diligence. So
that's going to be interesting to see how that develops, because I've been seeing a lot of things on X, Twitter, about people creating AI agents to do their trading and their investing. Now, obviously, anytime you get into the whole day trading space, you're going to see a ton of people saying they're making a ton of money and they're doing it fast, because day trading, you can make money quickly. You can lose a lot of your money fast. More than likely, you're going to lose your ass over the long-term day trading, so don't do so. Anyway, when I see that stuff being done with AI, I take it with a grain of salt. But it would be interesting to see how it develops, especially if you have a highly trained agent that you can have do very, very safe and small, minor moves, and then train it from there. I think that's going to be really good, because what do you need a stock analyst for? What do you need a stock analyst for? Stock analysts, people on Wall Street, they got to be up 20 hours a day working, because there's a lot of research, a lot of knowledge. You know what I like more than knowledge? My wife. I was just trying to say something like the Tai Lopez thing, knowledge. Although he said, you know what I like more than that Lamborghini? Knowledge. And then looked at all of his books.
I believe that very much, the winner take the Glengarry kind of rule, and try and think of it as an important lesson for how we try to invest. I think it's also important from a brand point of view. Like we want to say, like, when we invest, we want the message to be like, this is the best company in the category. Like the category may or may not work, but this is the best.
Yeah, we've declared the winner. Yeah.
And that helps you recruit and partner and sort of all the kind of brand signaling around it. So I think that, and so I don't know. I believe that it has been the case with the caveats of the nuances, and I would expect it to be the case going forward. And whether it's network effects, brand, I mean, we see it play out over and over with these, like Uber and Lyft. People had all these debates. I remember all these debates. Like, there aren't really network effects. It shouldn't be a winner take all. And if you look at the market caps, it is kind of winner take all. And it sort of happens again and again in these cases where people thought there wasn't some obvious reason why there'd be a winner take all. I mean, Google, people debated that for years early on. Like, there's no real network effect, just a brand effect.
I'll show you this. This is the what I'm working on here for the podcast. It's nuts. It removed all the filler words. It ended up editing the clip for clarity for me. I didn't even do anything. And it's adding the frame like that. All I had to do was say add frame, and then it's adding the captions. I didn't have to do anything. I did the captions on its own, and now I'm making the clips, and it's giving me layouts for the clips. Like, this is ridiculous. This is super cool. Now I got to put in what I want the goal to be for the clips. High virality potential. TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, period. It must also have high value. And shareable. There we go. Let's see what it does. This is so nuts. Oh, don't you love AI? Don't you love the good old AI?
Probably systematically underestimate brand effects in Silicon Valley. Like,
yeah,
it's a meaningful thing, and that's one of the reasons it is winner take all.
Yeah.
So I very much believe in that, and I think it's important as an investor to really take that really, really seriously. And And it's also just painful to be in the number 2 or 3. I will tell you, just like seeing the news articles every day and
I got an email.
going to LP events and just talking about how you're
Everyone asking you about the other
It's
one.
better to miss the
it's
category
hard.
than to get the steak knives, in my view. Just don't miss it. Occasionally we'll miss it.
Steak knives are a tough prize. Yeah, not compete in the contest at all. Yeah, I actually think that framework that you just enumerated is one that has become really valuable inside the firm. Last thing I want to ask you is just your approach to picking founders. So obviously,
Yeah, it's our one.
picking, you laid out the process, and a big part of the process, or the biggest part of the process at the early stage, is picking the founder. So what is your system and process for that?
Yeah, this is like a whole big topic. So I'll just try to be short.
We left 45 seconds.
Yeah. So, but I think there's this concept. I think it's Peter Thiel's concept of like sort of a founder that has a secret, like an earned secret,
All right,
like some.
hang on. This is nuts. Look at this. It just gave me clips. Let's see how good these clips are. This is wild.
You can be at the bottom of the hierarchy of a business, but knows how to use AI better than anyone else in your company. And then you jump 3-4 roles up, because that doesn't require the business to go outside and spend more resources if you are already in-house. I think that's what's going to happen.
100%.
Wow.
You can be
Dude, this is nuts. You see this? I didn't do anything. I've literally just been watching the video, and you've seen the work I've done on my laptop, on my desktop. Look at, and this is all that it's done. I haven't done anything. I just put in a couple commands. That's all. And made.
I built a paid community from $0 to $10,000 in monthly recurring revenue in 2 months, but I wasn't really liking it. It was not a thing that I fully.
That's crazy. Look, it gave me 20 clips.
Just yesterday, Google announced VO3 and Flow, and now you can create Hollywood level.
Dude, this is insane. Wow. I'm blown away. This is definitely worth the $20 a month or $30 a month, whatever it is. This is wow.
What did you do now?
Descript. It's called Descript. This is nuts. Wow.
Sales is an industry where you have to leave emotion outside. AI doesn't have emotion. We found that even though some leads were qualified, seemingly qualified, then they didn't pass the.
Dude, why was I thinking about hiring a fucking clipper or an editor? Why? I mean,
You got AI for that.
I got AI. I got AI. You guys understand? I am basically running like a pretty big media operation, one man. I'm doing deep research, posting long form articles, making several short clips a day, doing these live streams that will then be clippable, and then doing these podcasts and I have standalone content that I'm making that's longer form too. So get ready. I'm taking over this game. I'm taking it over. I'm dominating the space. A1A Media, Ace One Automations Media, A1A. That has a good ring to it. You know it has a good ring to it. Doesn't have a good ring to it. I haven't even shared it with my wife yet. A1A. Say it. See? It's like Detroit Avenue, A1A.
final test that our AI agent used.
I'm so pumped.
You can build.
Whoever's
functional
watching this
agents
right now, you're getting
on
early
24/7,
access. So
and
that
that
will
can
be
do
released
sales
on
calls.
Friday.
And
These
but in
clips
that
will be
case,
coming out throughout the week.
let's say I'm a business owner, I have no clue about that. How would I write a system prompt to build an agent like that? What nodes would I potentially use? What are the frameworks? Because sales closer, most of the times they have a sheet where they kind of look at everything they need to say. It's the routine. But if I don't have that, I have to make.
Dude, this is great. Oh my God, I'm so pumped. I was dreading doing the editing, by the way, just so you understand, whoever's watching this. I was dreading doing this. I was literally going to just do this after I finished live streaming, but I was like, fuck it, I'll get going with the motions just so that way I can get in the rhythm. And I was like, yeah, I paid for this thing anyway. I need to learn how to use it. It says I can do all these things. Well, I am impressed. I'm impressed. I wish I used this earlier today or yesterday because both today and yesterday were pretty chill days overall. So I could have got a lot of work done. Tomorrow I got a lot to do. I got
Yeah,
2
busy.
interviews. Oh, I don't know if it's 2
Meeting.
podcasts, but maybe it's 2. I don't know. I have to
You have a
look.
podcast, a meeting, and coaching.
Yeah. So, and then Tuesday, I have another podcast. Wednesday, nothing, but we may be going to New York on Wednesday. More likely on Thursday, and then stay there Friday, but we'll see. But yeah, I'll be in New York City, taking the family with me. I'll be pawning them off on my family, so I can go to an event. But yeah, and then Friday, I have a webinar. Friday, LinkedIn, 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I have a free webinar that I've partnered with My Biz Coaches going over AI, teaching AI. So we got that Friday. Saturday, I have some podcasts to do. And coaching calls are starting to get booked up. I'm starting to get way more leads for those. Well, I got 4 right now that I just have to finish up closing on. Yeah, so a lot going on. And then the 24th, I have a speaking engagement in Barberton. Man, this is nuts. All right, let's see what else I can do on this. Create highlight reel. Dude, no fucking way. It can do this too? That's nuts. Yeah, 1 minute. Wow. Dude, I'm so pumped. The marketing on this is going to be killer. I don't think you guys understand. I've been in this podcast game for years. I've gotten some big names on my shows. I just stopped it too soon, unfortunately. But now, and it's because a lot of this work. I don't like this work. Let's see.
You are my biggest inspiration. And this is worth more than money to me. If I can make a change in someone's life and they go and make a big change, that's a win for me. But there's also the possibility that AI will take over. We don't know. The best we can do is keep humanity.
This guy's name, by the way, is Dom. You can find him on TikTok, I think, Dom the Vibe Builder. He has a Discord community he invited me into. He's building some pretty big app, trying to get investors, things like that. And it's pretty cool what he's doing. He's doing some big things.
Be alive by improving each other and network
What is this?
even.
There's a lot of people creating these AI avatars and making good money. They may have questionable morals, but that's another question. It shows that the model is validated.
There has to be some regulation because I'm seeing a lot of ads with celebrities that aren't them. Maybe someone who is in a boomer generation.
It's people learning to use AI to enhance their roles, and same for business owners, like their business is going to change with the use of AI. So just kind of bridging that knowledge gap is the intention behind the podcast here. So I know you seem to be crushing on social media right now.
Thank you.
I think you'll have good takes and things to talk about.
The ideal scenario is we have AI perform the most complex tasks and we can enjoy life a bit more. We can, unfortunately, in a lot of countries, there's a lot of slavery yet. So maybe that can be solved through AI, through robots. It's our duty to try and do this. I know a lot of Indians and guys from Pakistan. I met a lot of them. And although it's something that they kind of have to do, the VA job, the VA market is tough. Those guys work a lot.
And you can tell this dude's going to do big things. The way he speaks, he's very articulate. He knows how to communicate very well. And that's like a hallmark trait of somebody who's going to make it big in social media is how well you can speak, your tonality. Does a very good job.
A lot of hours, not in their time zone, completely fuck up their routines to work for remote companies because labor is cheap there. If this can evolve thanks to AI, that's incredible. I think the way the world works will change because of AI, and whether just a the forefront of it, or if I am in the back end doing some tiny integrations, I'm pretty sure I can get a slice of this pie, however big it is. I don't care. If
There's a huge misconception when we have these big CEOs coming out and say AI is coming for everyone and you're going to lose your job. They usually wait until halfway into the article or the interview to say, unless you train up. If you train up, you may be okay. So I do think that there's big misconception there that it's just going to come for everybody, when in reality, it's people who learn how to use AI in their roles will have greater success as the technology develops. The issue with the crypto space is there's too many pump and dumps, too many get rich quick schemes. You can make a lot of money at crypto fast, it's true, but it dilutes the image, makes it less professional, less reputable. If you say, I have a
All right, I want to see the whole video though. Let's go here. What's that noise?
I don't know, I was wondering the same thing.
We're under attack.
Uh-huh.
Let's change up these captions a little bit. No, they're fine. They're fine actually. I want to see the full podcast now, though. Where did that go? Maybe it's this. It is. Okay. So this needs to be trimmed.
crypto business,
All right. So let me see what I can do to trim this up. It's kind of annoying, whatever that noise is.
Yeah, I don't know what it is.
I mean, there has to be a way for me to just do this myself, right? What's that mean? No, I don't know what I did.
you can make a lot of money at crypto fast, it's true, but it
Hang on. What's going on? Oh, let me do this. I want to get rid of it. So maybe I just do this. Yeah, maybe I just do that. Maybe that's it. Let's see.
So, Don,
Dom. Dom. Dominique. What just happened here? So I think I want to get rid of this stuff too for now. Okay. All right. Where we at?
so Don,
Let's get rid of that part too. We don't need that.
Don, tell me, man, how'd you end up getting into the AI space? Like, how did you end up where you are right now?
Well, I started with AI, but
Where are the captions? I thought we had captions in here. There we go.
earlier
I'll need
than
those captions.
when the hype actually started.
See that?
It was late 2022. I was still running my NFT company. My main work experience and my entrepreneurial journey has been in crypto. But I've been getting into AI, specifically with some AI tools that were entirely GPT and GPT wrappers in late 2022. So I started slowly learning also what made those systems possible so that I knew how to potentially integrate them in my business. And then from there, it was just a love story.
Let's see. Cool. All right. No. Layer, no. Let's do. I thought we already had it chapters. No, we don't want that. Get the fuck out of there. Good. Good. Maybe a timer. Timer might be good, huh? Let's see. I don't know. Let's see how that looks.
The more I learned, the more I wanted to do something with it.
100%. So you started off in the crypto space. So it does seem I also started off in the crypto space back in like 2016.
Huh. I thought I picked this for all the frames too.
And I started to learn about AI around 2022, 2023. But what was it for you, like going from NFTs, crypto, to getting into AI? Like, did you just see like a bigger opportunity there? It was more functional. Like, what was the thought process behind that?
Well, actually, a couple of years went by since the very first moment I stumbled upon AI. And that's because I implemented a tiny bit of AI into my business, not to an extent where it was substantially making a difference, but just slightly helping me, let's say, in drafting proposal to clients, just using ChatGPT. That was the main thing. And back then, the biggest thing you could do to personalize AI usage was prompts. So I learned prompt engineering, and that's essentially everything I did. But I made the actual shift a few months ago. I was actually returning back to crypto after a 1-year experience in working with creators, so in the content industry outside of crypto. And after this experience, I came back to crypto specifically into meme coins, and I built a community, a paid community, built it from $0 to $10,000 in monthly recurring revenue in 2 months. But I wasn't really liking it. It was not a thing that I fully controlled, because meme coins are very subject to market change. So 1 month could be good, the other one maybe completely the opposite, and it's not entirely due to me or to the community. And because of that, I told to myself, "Yo, Dom, you like content, you like AI. Why don't you do for the first time, both of them for real, for content and business together?" And so I started this journey. Today is day 52 of this series that I called "Building an AI Company in Public." And yeah, so I actually made the change because you're right. I saw a bigger opportunity, and in general, something that I felt more passionate towards. So yeah.
No, that makes complete sense. I feel the same way because I've done a lot in the space for crypto as well. Like I've had communities and hosted kind of like mini workshops explaining some of the cryptos to people.
Cool. We got all these clips, baby. Boom.
You can build fully functional agents that are on 24/7 and that can do sales calls even.
God damn it. What the fuck? Dude, whoever made the script, I love you. I do. You made my life so much easier. We'll take it. I'll get all this started too for it. Let's um, couldn't read the file. Why not? Oh, it's still downloading. I'm just being impatient, isn't it? Just being impatient, isn't it? All right, 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 all right. Oh yeah. Let's do this again. It should work now. There we go. Boom. 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 Here comes the boom. I gotta find his YouTube channel. That way I can tag him in it. There he be. All right, all right, all right. believer who don't believe in anything. You know, it's probably going to be better if I wait until it is all done. All right. Let's see, video elements. No. Where'd you get that? Yeah, we'll add that at the end, eh? Let's go June 6th. And we're going to be live at 1 p.m. Cool. I'm going to take a little break.
It's going for a bit. It's done now, obviously.
Yeah, it be was. All right, let's see if this can give me a good thumbnail. We're going to try YouTube's thumbnail, automating the whole process. If I can do this, I'm really going to be dominating this fucking game. Literally, I just got to dedicate a half hour to doing this for every video as opposed to hours. This shit would take hours. It's downloading all the clips right there. Like,
Thanks, AI.
dude, this is so dope. That's not me. That is Homeboy CRM. I get updates on it. I haven't done much with it. Kind of tired.
Yeah. I kind of want
Kind of want
to
to
go
work.
outside at some point and see. No, by the way.
Oh yeah.
When the lights are between 10 p.m. and 2 a.m. or on full time, or 11 p.m. and 2 a.m. I'm not sure.
Gotcha. So I have not really come up with any content ideas or any new ideas on AI today, or have learned much because I've been doing this. And then we get sidetracked. But this is going to be a lot of content in and of itself. I mean, we're talking like an hour of content here. We're clipping all of that shit up.
Yeah.
And I think I undercut myself. I think I only did 40 clips from an hour of content. Probably could have did some more, but that's okay because I'm going to blast the fuck out of this.
How do you get that to clip it in a good way? Like, how do you?
I don't know. I just pressed buttons literally, and then it picked good ones.
That's fair.
So, and we're going to see what it can do for this thumbnail. And another one, and another one, and another one's been downloaded, and another one, and another one, and another one's been downloaded. All right. That's taking too long. So I know what I want to do. I'm going to go into ChatGPT. Just want to see my screen. We're going to go into ChatGPT. We're going to go over here to, this is my one right here. All right. So I now need to get a picture of, I think I can do this. If I just go here, if I go to this TikTok screen one of those videos. Boom. Good vibe. Builder. Where he be? There he be. His Instagram will be better. We should have some pictures on there. Or not. All right, that ain't gonna work. That ain't gonna work. No, I'm saying that ain't gonna work. I wish his photo would enlarge here, but it will not. All right, so we're just going to take this. That's a horrible screenshot. There we go. Save. Because I think I can do some cool shit. At least I have an idea. All right. We'll roll with it. Where it be? All right, so we're gonna do these. Pictures. Screenshot. So boom, boom. Open. I also want to put my logo. And that one. Might be in here. There it is. Boom. For YouTube, aspect ratio 16:9. We must act as a expert YouTube thumbnail designer. The goal is to virality. Something else, and then let's do this. We'll put this in there. Boom, boom. All right. Here is what the YouTube video is about. Boom. Let's see what it does. Let's see what it be do. It's like you're like the French girl right now. All right. All right. That should be pretty cool. Hopefully. Maybe. We'll see.
It's working.
Well, yeah, it's working. I mean, it is indeed working. Doesn't mean it is going to work out. If you know what I mean. If you know what I mean, 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 do you know what I mean? I mean what I've seen. You know, take your spleen, put it in a machine. Because I'm rude and I'm mean. And you don't want to be against my team. Because if you are, the stars you'll be seeing. Oh, look at that. That is not great. Do you see that? that ain't that good. I mean, it's okay. My crypto to AI. It's okay,
I don't like it.
but it ain't it. It ain't it. All right. So let me let's go back in this post, okay? Let's go here and Kai. Put this back in. There we go. Okay, put that right there. Good. Should just work, right? You should just be able to go right back up in there. No? Copy image. I can do this though, right? Yep. Boom. 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 I got to give it better instructions. That's on me. It's not the AI. It's on this guy. I got to give it clearer instructions, which is what I am about to do. All right. Okay. Pictures. The left, right, left, and middle pictures are just for reference. The right picture is to give you, is to be used for its color scheme. I want to be creative and generate a highly viral potential thumbnail for YouTube. All right, let's try it again. I mean, it's not bad. I mean, let's look at it a little bit more. It's okay. Like, this is how a lot of the new thumbnails are. But what I don't like, first off, is that shouldn't be in the center. That's bad. My crypto to AI, that's okay. But the wording, the way it's like formatted,
Yeah, it's really lined up.
right? Like, it should be the AI down here, right? Keep it congruent.
Yeah.
But even my crypto to AI, that's very vague. It doesn't make any sense. So I might have to reprompt it again, but we'll see. This is a part of the learning process. So let's see what it generates this time. Let's see. Let's see. From, oh, look it. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Doesn't even look like me now.
They look angry so far.
I know. That's kind of probably what it needs to look like. That's actually decent. Wow. Okay. I'm impressed.
Why do you look so angry?
I don't know. Virality, baby. That's a lot better. I like it. But you've reached your limit for this conversation. I gotta go and rebuild this whole fucking chat again. Not really. Should already have the memory for it. But basically, I can just literally prompt anything in here and it just makes it an image. I've got this one trained. It's my biatch. Fuck. All right. It's not a bad one, but it ain't it. It's not it. So now what we're going to do is we're going to come over here and give it another whirl. Right? We're going to go boom. Gonna get that boom, boom, boom. I want remove the A logo. Thumbnail. with another variation of this thumbnail for YouTube. $16.9. Nope, keep doing it. You are a expert YouTube thumbnail designer. Our goal is to make a attention grabbing thumbnail for a higher click-through rate. We are building a YouTube/podcast to scale fast. Let me go back here real quick. Where are you? There you are. I need you. Oh yeah, I never started that new chat, but that's okay because I needed that. So boom. Oh, there it is. Cool. Boom. Awesome. All right. Let's see what it does. I'm very, very surprised. Oh, I did not mean to do it in 03, but we'll see what 03 does. Maybe 03 is way better. I've never tried making images in 03. I've always done 04. So maybe this 03 one is like top notch, next level. We'll find out together on this episode of A1A, Detroit Avenue. Oh no, I only have 5 responses left. Oh no. Oh no. Yeah, let's do it, baby. Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it. Let's do it. We're going to see what it does. We're going to see what it does. We're going to see what it does. Oh, it's thinking. It's thinking, mother. It's thinking. I need to watch my mouth. I'm swearing a lot. Yes. A swearing issue today. Fun fact, if you yelled for 8 years, 7 months, and 6 days, you would have produced enough sound energy to heat 1 cup of coffee. You can't generate it? What? Are you... I'll be happy to craft fresh thumbnail prompt for you. Okay, yeah, do that. No, it's on me. It's on me. I need to use it better. Did you know AI can now generate entire 3D worlds from a single text prompt? Japan's government releases Minecraft map with world's largest pool or flood tunnel. Incredible. A millionaire is a person with little to no money at all. Are you kidding me? Why does this conflict? All right, you know what? We're going to take this. Give me that. Let's try a different one. Boom. Approve. Oh, is it because it said anxious crypto, bro? Like, I don't know. It's silly. These things, it's saying it's against its content guidelines, but there's nothing in here that's wrong. And also, why the fuck do you have content guidelines, dude? Why? Why?
Wait, so it won't make an image? So
See, it keeps saying it. Like, what the fuck? How is it violating anything? You know what? I got an idea. ChatGPT has kind of not been my friend lately. Okay? You know what I've been using instead? Yeah, Gemini. I've been using Gemini. Gemini. Let's see. Boom. Can it create an image? I don't know if it can. I guess we'll give it a try. I don't know. It is. Wow. Okay, cool. 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 And that is not bad. Not bad. That's actually good. And my wife is going to leave us now. Goodbye. See you later.
I got the jeans.
Okay.
I want to be seen in the jeans. I'm coming.
You're wearing a nightgown.
I know.
You look like those 1890 women.
1890.
1890. That's how you look in your dress. I know what I gotta do. I know what I gotta do. I gotta do this. I gotta do that. I gotta do this and I gotta do that. I gotta do a little bit of this and a little bit of that. And if you're a little bit whacked, then you're gonna get smacked. You already know that you best get back. And if you don't get back, then you get jacked. All right, all right, all right. Boom, 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 boom. You know what? I'll just remove this. We'll say, no, this is the image of the men that should be in there. So then we'll do this, okay? We'll go here, boom. Wow, how I love Gemini that much more. You know, I've been using Gemini for almost everything lately. And there's a reason why. It's better. It is better. That's not bad. That's not bad. If I say so myself. No, I just want to download it. There it is. All right. It's not bad. It's not bad. Not bad at all. Not bad at all. Not bad. Not bad. Let's see. Should be clearer than that. It really should be clearer than that. Let's see. Hopefully it's clearer than that. Hopefully.
Approach vibe coding for the first time and have pretty extensive knowledge on how to do a prompt, but they're lacking of the backend frameworks, like the rules for the tool they're using, like Cursor rules, Windsurf rules, or they're lacking the tech stack. They don't even know how to approach a tech stack or how to.
Ooh, man, that ain't good. I don't know if there's a way I can save it. Let me see here. Let me see here. Okay, buddy. 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 Oh, buddy. Oh, buddy. Fuck. Fuck. Oh. 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 Wow. Oh. I gotta download all this shit again. Fuck. That changes everything. Gosh darn it. No, come on. I need the text. All right, let me bring you over here. Let me show you where I messed up. I messed up over here. Okay, you see, I messed up. All right, I messed up. Even G's mess up sometimes. Even G's make mistakes. Boom, boom, boom. Oh, buddy. Buddy. Money. Money. Show me the money. Show me the money.
so that I knew how to potentially integrate them in my.
Oh man, that's it. That's the money shot right there, baby. That is the money shot. Boom. That's the one we want. That's the one we want. YT landscape. That's the one we want right there. That is the one we want. That is the one we want indeed. Well, fudge. Now I got to figure out how to get this one off of here. Right there, know what I'm saying? Got to get that off there. Got to get that off there. How does one do that? I don't think one does do that. So I think what one does have to do. Fuck. Motherfucker. I'm so angry. Not really. I'm not very angry. Okay. Let's go back here. Boom. I want to add the chapters. Give me the chapters. Give me the chapters. Give me the chapters. Chapters. Give me the chapters. Give me the chapters. Give me the chapters. Chapters. The chapters. Yeah, we get rid of this one for now. We'll do that. We'll just delete it. We'll delete it. Delete forever. Say goodbye. See you later. You know why? Because I got a bunch more. I got a bunch more where that came from. You best believe that. I got a bunch more. Because I don't fuck around. I don't know. Ooh. Does it go right here? I don't know. I don't really know where it goes, honestly. Maybe right there. Let's see. How do you look? I mean, it. Wow. 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 Whoa. Wow. 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 Let's see if this one does any better. Because it's going to need to be better tonight. Let me tell you. It's going to need to be better tonight. What the fuck? Oh, because it's not done yet. That's right. It ain't on yet. What? 1 hour, 3 minutes? Are you kidding me? There ain't no way it's going to be no hour and 3 minutes. All right, I accept it. I accept it. All right. I fucking accept it. All right. So here's what I'll do. I'm just going to get out of this. We're going to get out of this. We're going to get out of that. We're going to damn sure get out of that. And we're going to get out of that. Yeah, we'll get out of that for now. All right. Cool. So that leaves us with just a few things. Not many things, but a few things. But who needs many things when you have a few things? I don't know what the fuck that means, but you know what I mean. Even if you don't know what I mean, you know what I mean. All right. It should be the other way. Hang on. Boom. Oh, come on. Boom. Oh, come on. Boom. Nope. Oh. Where's my StreamYard? Where's my motherfucking StreamYard? Boom, there we go. That's what we wanted right there, baby. Let's bring it back to this. All right, now let's go back to this. We're going to get back to it. We're going to get right back to it because we need to. A lot of people are upset about this. They are. Right here. It's a fact. Can't deny it. Everybody knows why. I don't even know who they are. I just know what people are upset about. Let's see. Are we at the end of AI progression? Excuse me. All right, let's test this out.
Collaboration anxiety is real, but it shouldn't stop you from joining your team in a real time.
So the users are not as intense.
As active.
if you will.
All right, so now we are going to watch Yin LeCun. We won't reach AGI by scaling up LLMs. Let's see what he has to say. But first,
In a world
a message from somebody who does not sponsor me.
you need to
Well, let's get
focus
them out of
on
here.
what helps.
We are not going to get to human level AI by just scaling up LLMs. This is just not going to happen. Okay.
That's your perspective.
There's no way. Okay. Absolutely no way. And whatever you can hear from some of my more adventurous colleagues, it's not going to happen within the next 2 years. There's absolutely no way in hell to, pardon my French, the idea that we're going to have, a country of genius in the data center, that's complete BS, right? There's absolutely no way. What we're going to have maybe is systems that are trained on sufficiently large amounts of data that any question that any reasonable person may ask will find an answer through those systems. And it would feel like you have, a PhD sitting next to you, but it's not a PhD you have next to you. It's, a system with a gigantic memory and retrieval ability, not a system that can invent solutions to new problems, which is really what a PhD is. Okay, this is
That's
actually
the whole deal.
It's connected to this post that Thomas made, that you inventing new things requires the type of skill and abilities that you're not going to get from LLMs. So there's a big question, which is the investment that is being done now is not done for tomorrow. It's done for the next few years, and most of the investment, at least from the Meta side, is investment in infrastructure for inference. Okay, so let's imagine that by the end of the year, which is really the plan at Meta, we have 1 billion users of Meta AI through smart glasses, a standalone app and whatever. You got to serve those people, and that's a lot of computation. So that's why you need, a lot of investment in infrastructure to be able to scale this up and, build it up over months or years. And so that, that's where most of the money is going. At least on the side of companies like Meta and Microsoft and Google and potentially Amazon. Then there is, so this is just operations essentially. Now, is there going to be the market for 1 billion people using those things regularly, even if there is no change of paradigm? And the answer is probably yes. So even if the revolution of a new paradigm doesn't come, within 3 years, this infrastructure is going to be used. There's very little question about that. Okay, so it's a good investment, and it takes so long to set up, data centers and all that stuff that you need to get started now and plan for, progress to be continuous, so that eventually the investment is justified. But you can't afford not to do it, right? Because that would be too much of a risk to take if you have the cash.
But let's go back to what you said. The stuff today is still deeply flawed. And there have been questions about whether it's going to be used. Now, Meta is making this consumer bet, right? The consumers want to use the AI. That makes sense. OpenAI has 400 million users of ChatGPT. Meta has 3-4 billion. I mean, basically, if you have a phone,
well, you have
Earth,
3 point something billion users, 600 million users of Meta AI.
Right. Okay. So more than ChatGPT.
Yeah, but but it's not used as much as ChatGPT. Right. So the users are not as intense.
As active. But basically, the idea that Meta can get to 1 billion consumer users, that seems reasonable. But the thing is, a lot of this investment has been made with the idea that this will be useful to enterprises, not just a consumer app. And there's a problem because, like we've been talking about, it's not good enough yet. You look at deep research. This is something Benedict Evans has brought up. Deep research is pretty good, but it might only get you 95% of the way there, and maybe 5% of it hallucinates. So if you have a 100-page research report and 5% of it is wrong and you don't know what 5%, that's a problem. And similarly, in enterprises today, every enterprise is trying to figure out how to make AI useful to them, generative AI useful to them, and other types of AI. But only 10% or 20% maybe of proof of concepts make it out the door into production because it's either too expensive or it's fallible. So if we are getting to the top here, what do you anticipate is going to happen with everything that has been pushed in the anticipation that it is going to get even better from here?
Well, so again, it's a question of timeline, right? When are those systems going to become sufficiently reliable and intelligent so that the deployment is maybe...
We just made a sale on Gumroad. Yes, for $1.
easier.
Yes.
But
Yes,
I mean, this situation you're describing, that beyond the impressive demos, actually deploying systems that are reliable is where things tend to falter in the use of computers and technologies, and particularly AI. This is not new. It's basically why we had super impressive autonomous driving demos 10 years ago, but we still don't have level 5 self-driving cars, right? It's the last mile that's really difficult, so to speak, for cars. It's the
last. See what you did there,
last few. That was not deliberate. The last few percent of reliability, which makes a system practical, and how you integrate it with existing systems and blah blah blah, and how it makes users of it more efficient, if you want, or more.
That's pretty cool.
Here's a hot take. If you have a message inside you that people are meant to hear, it'll never make the impact that it truly deserves until you have one thing: an audience. The best way to build an audience and a platform that amplifies your message is not a book, a podcast, a newsletter, none of that. It's landing a TEDx talk. And here's why. Because the TEDx YouTube channel has over 41 million subscribers. It's the biggest stage on the planet. So all it takes is one 15-minute talk to build a massive audience. One talk to position yourself as a credible, authoritative leader. One talk that can lead to podcasts, book deals, interviews, media, press, coaching clients, social followers. One talk to raise more money for your cause, grow your business to become a force of nature. I speak from experience. 13 years ago, I got on that stage, had never spoken before in my life. I watched that talk get 1,000 views, 5,000 views, 10,000 views, 20,000 views, and that's when. Now, by show of screams, who here is at their very first SWE Day?
Taylor Conroy is the guest, and he was a successful Victoria real estate agent, but he gave up that comfortable lifestyle, hoping to make a difference in the lives of people all over the world.
Interesting. Cool.
Reliable or whatever. That's where it's difficult. And you know, this is why if we go back several years and we look what happened with IBM Watson. Okay, so Watson was going to be the thing that, you know, IBM was going to push and generate tons of revenue by having Watson, you know, learn about medicine and then be deployed in every hospital. And it was basically a complete failure and was sold for parts, right? And cost a lot of money to IBM, including the CEO. And what happens is that actually deploying those systems in situations where they are reliable and actually help people and don't like hurt the natural conservatism of the labor force. This is where things become complicated. We're seeing the same, you know, the process we're seeing now with the difficulty of deploying AI system is not new. It's happened absolutely at all times. This is also why, you know, some of your listeners perhaps are too young to remember this, but there was a big wave of interest in AI in the 1980s, early 1980s, around expert systems, and you know, the hardest job in the 1980s was going to be knowledge engineer, and your job was going to be to sit next to an expert and then, you know, turn the knowledge of the expert into rules and facts that would then be to inference engine that would be able to kind of derive new facts and answer questions and blah, blah, blah. Big wave of interest. The Japanese government started a big program called Fifth Generation Computer. The hardware was going to be designed to actually take care of that and blah, blah, blah. You know, mostly a failure. There was kind of you know, the wave of interest kind of died in the mid-90s about this. And you know, a few companies were successful, but basically for a narrow set of applications for which you could actually reduce human knowledge to a bunch of rules, and for which it was economically feasible to do so. But the wide-ranging impact of society and industry was just not there. And so that's a danger of AI all the time. I mean, the signals are clear that, you know, still LLMs with all the bells and whistles actually play an important role, if nothing else, for information retrieval. You know, most companies want to have some sort of internal experts that know all the internal documents so that any employee can ask any question. We have one at Meta. It's called MetaMate. It's really cool. It's very useful.
Yeah, and I'm not suggesting that that modern AI is not, or modern generative AI is not useful, or I'm asking purely that there's been a lot of money that's been invested into expecting this stuff to effectively achieve God-level capabilities. And we both are talking about how, like, there's, you know, potentially diminishing returns here. And then what happens if there's that timeline mismatch, like you mentioned?
Yeah.
And this is the last question I'll ask about it, because I feel like we have so much else to cover. But I feel like timeline mismatches, that might be personal to you. You and I first spoke 9 years ago, which is crazy now, 9 years ago. And, you know, about how in the early days you had an idea for how AI should be structured, and you couldn't even get a seat at the conferences. And then eventually, with the right amount of when the right amount of compute came around, those ideas started working, and then the entire AI field took off based off of your idea that you worked on with Bengio and Hinton, but
and a bunch of others,
and many others. But for the sake of efficiency,
Oh yeah, I should probably pause it, huh?
we'll say go look it up. But
Yeah.
talking about those mismatched timelines, when there have been overhyped moments in the AI field, maybe with expert systems that you were just talking about, and they don't pan out the way that people expect, the AI field goes into what's called AI winter.
Well, there's a backlash. Yeah.
Correct. And so if we are potentially approaching this moment of mismatched timelines, do you fear that there could be another winter now, given the amount of investment, given the fact that there's going to be potentially diminishing returns with the main way of training these things? And maybe we'll add in the fact that the market is the stock market looks like it's going through a bit of a downturn right now. Now, that's a variable, probably the third most important variable of what we're talking about, but it has to factor.
So, I think, there's certainly a question of timing there, but I think if we try to dig a little bit deeper, as I said before, if you think that we're going to get to human level AI by just training on more data and scaling up LLMs, so if you're an investor and you invested in a company that told you we're going to get to human level AI and PhD level by just training on more data and with a few tricks, I don't know if you're going to use your shirt, but that was probably not a good idea. However, there are ideas about how to go forward and have systems that are capable of doing what every intelligent animal and human are capable of doing, and that current AI systems are not capable of doing. And I'm talking about understanding the physical world, having persistent memory, and being able to reason and plan. Those are the four characteristics that need to be there, and that require systems that can acquire common sense, that can learn from natural sensors like video as opposed to just text, just human-produced data, and that's a big challenge. I mean, I've been talking about this for many years now, and saying this is what the challenge is. This is what we have to figure out, and my group and I have, or people working with me and others who have listened to me, are making progress along this line of systems that can be trained to understand how the world works on video, for example, systems that can use mental models of how the physical world works to plan sequences of actions to arrive at a particular goal. So we have kind of early results of this kind of systems. And there are people at DeepMind working on similar things, and there are people in various universities working on this. The question is, when is this going to go from interesting research papers demonstrating a new capability with a new architecture to, architectures at scale that, are practical for a lot of applications and can find solutions to new problems without being trained to do it, etc. And, it's not going to happen within the next 3 years, but it may happen with, between 3 to 5 years, something like that. And that's kind of corresponds to, the sort of ramp up that we see in investment. Now, whether other, so that's the first thing. Now, the second thing that's important is that there's not going to be one secret magic bullet that one company or one group of people is going to invent that is going to just solve the problem. It's going to be a lot of different ideas, a lot of effort, some principles around which to base this that some people may not subscribe to and will go in a direction that is, will turn out to be a dead end. So there's not going to be like a day before which there is no AGI and after which we have AGI. This is not going to be an event. It's going to be continuous conceptual ideas that, as time goes by, are going to be made bigger and to scale and going to work better. And it's not going to come from a single entity. It's going to come from the entire research community across the world. And the people who share their research are going to move faster than the ones that don't. And so if you think that there is some startup somewhere with 5 people who has discovered the secret of AGI and you should invest $5 billion in them, you're making a huge mistake.
You're not going to believe what happened. Tell me everything. I'll show you on Monday.com. So I started the biggest initiative of the quarter. I did everything right. I used
All right. That's it for me for live streaming. See you guys tomorrow.